get ready to learn NWSL, baby. That's right. Denver's got a team. Downtown Duane Brown with all the insights for you. Plus, new big money signing for the Rapids. And we've got all our position previews starting now. There we go. From the Toyota Lounge in downtown Denver, above the DNVR bar. DNVR Rapids, baby. We're doing it. Back again. Downtown Duane Brown, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. Like, what a good couple of weeks for soccer in Denver.
It's been a little crazy.
It's been awesome crazy.
Yeah. And the season's like around the corner. The Rapids will have played an official game by the time we do this 2 weeks from now.
Mere weeks away, folks.
Yeah, it's nutty. As I said in the cold open, all sorts of NWSL stuff to get into. New signings. And super producer Yaya super producing down in the at the Super Bowl. Look at that. Mama, we made it. And producer Riley Sorbo behind the sticks. Join us in the Toyota chat. Leave us a thumbs up. Duaner, so much to get into. We're not going to waste any time. You were at the NWSL events. Yes.
Yeah. NWSL. Denver is the 16th team to join the NWSL.
Yeah.
It's happening. The For Denver FC initiative, grassroots initiative that started 2 years ago has paid off. Denver is joining not just the women's soccer world, but the women's pro sports world. We are no longer the largest city to not have a professional women's sport.
Crazy.
It's happening. Congratulations to everyone who's worked on that. Jordan Angeli, who's been the face of it all. She was on this show, just over a year ago, talking about the development of things. I got to talk to her last week at the event and the presser. Needless to say, she is super happy right now.
I mean, I can't imagine.
And just a breath of relief, I've got to imagine. And the whole crew has been working so hard on that.
Yeah, being able to deliver this huge project and be at this point where they have scarves there. They've got the mayor and the governor doing stuff. Like they're making
massive
plans. This is real.
It's real.
And she's really one of those people who spearheaded it. So massive, massive congratulations and a huge thank you to everyone who worked on this. Because, I mean, what a step.
Yeah, I mean, and the cool thing about this is that there's people like Jordan, Ben Hubbard, and a lot of names that I'm forgetting that sort of initially set this thing in motion. Right up to now, the current owners led by Rob Cohen, but there's a lot of volunteers, people that are not getting any financial benefit to this. They're not part owners or anything. They were just people who hit the street teams. They were ambassadors for Denver FC, and I think that's incredible.
Oh,
I mean, they're not going to have it on paper, but they will know that when this team takes the field in 2026, wherever that might be, they can look down and say, I did that, So I think that's just super cool. Like the fact that it wasn't billionaires landing on Denver and going, I will now create this new team. Mm-hmm. It was people right here in Denver, right here in Colorado, making it happen.
Yeah, it's a small enough project where you need a bit of a grassroots effort, and they came through on that.
It really did.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, so just congrats all around to everybody.
Yeah.
What a huge accomplishment. Big story for Denver, for Colorado, for women's soccer, for women's pro sports. It's all happening right now thanks to NWSL Denver. I did last week jump into a couple of press conferences.
Yeah.
Got to hear from the controlling owner, who is Rob Cohen. It started off last week in an early morning kind of media only press conference where some folks from around the country were just asking some questions. And one of the big things to come out of that is really this idea of creating a team, a club, and this kind of stuck out to me, where players, coaches, trainers, staff want to be a part of, where they want to come. He made no bones about it. Like, we are going all in on this thing. This isn't just like another property that I own. This is something that we are invested in, obviously a lot of money, but I think personally invested in. Rob Cohen, who's controlling owner, he is from here. His daughter played competitive soccer. He is a ball knower. He understands what it's like to watch his child grow up and play competitive soccer with hopes of becoming a pro. His family is involved. I met some of the family at the next event. They are all in on this thing. Like, I think that is one of the most encouraging things you can hear from an owner, is that of course there's business involved, but this isn't just a business transaction. This is let's create something meaningful, not just to Denver and to Colorado, but for sports. We talked also about Colorado being a hotbed for pro athletes.
Yeah.
I mean, and we are.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Sophia Wilson, she just got married, so remember, new name. You've got Mal Swanson. You've got Lindsey Horan. You've got all of these players, not just for the national team, but throughout the NWSL and abroad, that are playing just amazing soccer.
Yeah.
And they're from Colorado.
Some of the absolute best in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things like that Rob Cohen had said during that morning presser was that, playing in front of your home crowd is appealing to any athlete. Like, and it kind of came like, not like an actual wink and a nudge, but like, it's clear that they want to see some of those Colorado athletes come home and play for NWSL Denver.
I think it's one of the angles and advantages you would take by opening a franchise in Denver.
Absolutely.
Also, what I'm hearing, Duane, and that was my top wish list, was top players, preferably local. As an original MLS team, we've seen all these other new teams get that new team bump and all the excitement. We finally get a bit of that juice with this NWSL team, Like, it feels exactly like that. Like, there's going to be palpable excitement. This isn't just an ownership group getting in on some ownership packet and the league, and as you were saying, just sitting on a property that's like nice and safe and is just going to increase in value. These are people who want to capitalize on this opportunity and go all in and create some excitement locally. And if they do this right, the potential for this NWSL team is just massive.
It's huge. And that excitement's already here.
Yeah.
Already last week, within just, I think, 3 days, this club has already broken the record for fastest to 5,000 season ticket deposits. And it's well over that number now. So the excitement, as you say, it's already palpable. Like, people are pumped. They're showing up. They're getting their deposits in. It's awesome. People have been asking, where's the stadium going to be? We don't know yet. They said it could be anything from a few weeks. In that morning presser with Rob Cohen, he said we could know this in a matter of a few weeks. I noticed he added on to a couple months. So that it could be a couple months if it's not right away.
I'd be shocked if it just took a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think that they have a site in mind, but there's business stuff that has to happen. What Mike Johnson, mayor of Denver, said,
Hey-o, shout out,
big soccer guy. He did say that the stadium will be in the city or county of Denver. So you can expect it to be in Denver. The other thing I really like about it, and this came from the ownership group, is the ownership group is building this facility. They are paying for it, not the taxpayers. It's not going to be one of those things like, well, we want to shoulder some of it onto you, and then we want to charge you tickets and everything else. Like, they are building this out of pocket, which I think is very cool, and also shows, again, the 100% all-in interest that they have on building this club.
It also, I think, suggests there might be a pretty intriguing real estate project connected to all this. Like, this feels like it's got the potential of Coors and Lodo and all the developments, McGregor Square and everything else that's done. So, and from a business standpoint, if that's your real estate outlook, that's smart. That has a lot of business upside.
Someone asked that question at the afternoon press conference that was a little more open to the public at number 38. And they said, is this going to be a facility only, or are you looking to develop this and make it a residential or shops, retail, that sort of thing? And the answer was, we are looking long-term on this. So read between the lines, like, yes, they're going to build a state-of-the-art facility and stadium, but they're also going to create other things to do around that and reasons to be in that area, wherever that location will be.
I mean, it makes sense. That's where there just is.
Yes. And last thing about the stadium, and I think this is really cool too. Melody Hobson, who's one of the other owners, she's with Project Level. She's also tidbit minority owner of the Denver Broncos. So she's already connected here. One of the cool things about the stadium and the training facility that they're building is that she made a mention, like, sports have always been dominated by men. Most training facilities, all of these things are built with traditional athletes in mind, meaning they're built from the men's standard, the male standard. This facility will be designed by women for women. So this facility, all of the training equipment, all of the ways that it run will be specifically built towards pro women athletes.
That's very cool.
I think that's pretty neat. I think it's going to be something new that no one else at this time is going to be able to say they have. So huge stuff. There's so much more, and we will be covering it as it continues to, as we get more information. I'm talking to Jordan. She wants to come back on the show. So we'll be able to get more information from Jordan herself, who knows more about this project, obviously, than anybody. So, but again, congrats to everybody involved. Well done. We are so excited. And thank you. Thank you for the work that you've done. My daughter is ecstatic about being able to watch women play. Very cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. You can see the excitement in the Toyota chat. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, M Wealth. And seem like good vibes from the DNVR side as well.
Absolutely.
Like, they are excited you were there and what have you. We got an email from the mayor's office too.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Hey.
Yep. So, just excited all around. We've got all sorts of news to get to. We've got 3 position previews to get into. Who would have guessed it that we would have talked NWSL for 15 minutes? Anyone who's ever listened to this podcast, that is who. So we're going to do that on the other side here. And shooting it to ourselves, because it's a great time to become a diehard at DNVR. If you are a true diehard Denver sports fan, I can't tell you, our membership's a must-have. If you consume any of our content, must-have. All the content that's on there is awesome by true credentialed journalists who just have phenomenal reporting, insights, and analysis. If you ever buy any of our merch, our diehard membership is a must-have. Our gear is the best, man. I love it so damn much. And if you ever mess with any of our events or come to the bar, all the discounts you get, the free shirt you get, access to the content, it pays for itself with the offer we've got going right now at just $48 a year. That's $4 a month, guys. It's truly nothing. So yeah, check it out, ddnvr.com. Become a member today. Support your local journalists and content creators, and get on this ride with us as we keep covering Denver sports because we love it so much, and we cover it in the way that only we can. And then if you haven't already, come check out some DNVR events, ddnvr.com/events. The Nuggets are hosting 2 more takeovers for this season, presented by Breck Brewery and Breck Distillery. Join the diehards and the DNVR crew for the Suns game March 7th or the Grizzlies game April 11th. Those will be awesome. Check out that. Packages are available now, ddnvr.com/events. And check out our Avs takeovers right now. Same deal, only this one's a suite. So February 28th, you can get in on the suite package. Tickets include DNVR Avs merch, suite ticket with free food and drinks all night, plus a party bus ride to and from the DNVR bar. And you got Breck Brews on the party bus as well. So there you go. We're back, baby. Okay, Duaner, all sorts of news. Where do you want to start?
Oh, man.
Should we start with the top 5 signing in Rapids history?
Do it.
According to transfer fees, I mean, this was just the Gam King at his gammest king of all. He's taken advantage already of the ability to transfer Gam into actual transfer fee money. It's the
cash,
straight
we like
cash,
to call it
homie.
straight up cash.
That's right. It's the third such transaction after some fairly big interleague signings that happened earlier in the week. He's the second 22 under 22 to move from one club to the other. The second from DC United to go out west. And of course, our guy, Ted Ku-DiPietro, now a Rapid, for a transfer fee of $1.125 million with the potential of basically $200K add-ons. He's a 23-year-old homegrowner from DC United, really promising and a lot of hype coming out of that 2023 season, and gets signed to a big extension through 2027.
Yep.
As a under-22 contract, has some U23 experience with the national team. He is an American signing, following that theme we've seen basically in the Armis era, is going heavy on Americans, going heavy on attacking midfielders. I mean, Ollie Larraz, Cole Bassett, Georgie, Sam Bassett. It's all these guys who could maybe play as your deep line playmaker in the midfield, but could also play up front as more of a 10, and from time to time play like a wing. I think he's intriguing as a second striker as well. He's a bit of a buy low candidate because he did have a down 2024.
Yep.
But this is a kid who at different times in his career has had people pretty excited about his potential, and the Rapids are able to get him in a astute move. I think, getting younger and more talented. Okay, it's a bit of a wait and see. This is a move that has me intrigued, though, for sure.
Yeah, it's no surprise that Rapids are making one of these cash moves. Porg Smith was on the committee that created that
I know.
situation.
That was great
So-
insights from Tommy Scoops.
You know, so he knows what he's doing. The numbers don't look great, but try to look past that because there was some injury and other things happening. What I like most about this signing is that this is a kid who came up through DC United Academy. He's from Virginia.
Another great Virginian.
Whoop.
Yes.
He, you know, wasn't getting a lot of looks, even though he was playing good soccer. And I was reading an interview from a couple years ago where it was during the pandemic, and he was like, man, I need to get on it or I'm going to be on the streets. Like, that was his direct quote. And from then, like, he just worked his butt off, got up through the academy, got into the squad, sat on the bench for a long time, worked his way into a starter. We don't know. I mean, we'll talk a year from now whether or not this was a good signing or not.
Yeah.
But what I like is that he's got dog. Like,
Yes.
we haven't seen it like on the pitch yet.
There's some
but a
swagger
guy-
to this
yes,
kid.
like a guy who's going to work that hard to get himself, to force himself into being a starter, tells me that this is a guy who is not going to be content with just being a starter. Like,
Yep.
I think he wants to make his mark.
I agree completely. What really stood out to me was the first touch. Really good keeping control, settling the ball on that first touch. Very valuable at midfield, but very valuable in the final third.
Yep.
So many of his goals and assists are coming on just like a first touch cross, a first touch little poke in. Really, and it's why you'll see him make great plays on half volleys and volleys. He's just, that's where he's special. I see some playmaking ability, and you really see it when you go back to his USL stuff, when he was with, you know, coming through the academy
Yep.
and what have you. As a pro with DC United, I should say, play more up front. And I thought him and Benteke had nice rapport. I'm very intrigued by him as a winger or even as a second striker. Great left foot. I really like him coming in from the right side and, you know, coming
that
back
inverted
in,
winger.
doing the
Yep.
inverted winger. Exactly. And just a lot of creativity to his game, wanting to take guys on one-on-one and create that numerical advantage for you. So there's some really nice upside for him. So, yeah.
Yeah, there is.
And injuries, I think, is part of the question as well. And
For
I
sure.
think is part of why he had a down season. But, you know, he's one of those low center of gravity, messy body types.
Yep.
Wayne Rooney, you know, like just like low to the ground, smaller. But because he's low to the ground, he's really tough on ball. He's
And
hard
I
to get off it.
I
you
think
know?
there's a reason Wayne Rooney was really high on him.
Dude, 100%. Yes.
He
Yes.
sees a little bit of that in there.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah, what I like about him is that, you know, as far as like, you know, when he's on the ball, is that he's not trying to smash it into or towards the goal. Like, he is a player who's going to be fine, like getting towards that near post and just pushing the ball in to let, you know, whether it's Hoffa or whoever is going to be there, like finish it off.
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of like heads up play, but also selfless. This is a team. Let's just get the goal. Who gives a crap who gets it? You know, I don't know. I think there's a lot of upside to this kid.
Yep.
Hopefully Teddy turns into the star signing for this year, like we saw with Georgie last year.
100%. I see MW saying, I think the Rapids front office is hoping that with all the draft picks last season and this, plus DiPietro, they're hoping that a few of them will hit big. Yeah, that's right. You're just kind of adding more rolls of the dice.
Yep.
He's not a sure thing, but I think because of his experience and some of the promise he's shown in the league, a bit more of a sure thing, a bit less of a gamble than some of these draft picks.
For
who
sure.
Have obviously are much more unproven commodities
Yep.
at this point. Other quick hitting newsers.
Daniel Chacon is out. They've come to a mutual agreement, so he is moving on. good luck to you. We never, one of those like weird storylines of Rapids that we never got to see actually wear burgundy and get out on the pitch. Kevin Cabral gets a green card. So this is important because it opens up an international slot.
And they traded one away at some point this offseason. I
think they
remember.
were down to one. I think they might be back up to 2. I don't know if that's correct.
No,
but
I think you're right.
They're at 2.
I think that's right. Yep.
Our international spots with the Rapids have been up and down this offseason. But I think we have 2 that are open now.
Yeah.
This opens one of those up. I think that's important as we look to the summer of the new buyout options that we have. I think Cabral could be a TAM buyout, and then now we have a international spot plus a DP open. That's huge. Right. Depending on how the season goes, if we need some big help coming in the summer, so that's something to keep an eye on with the Kevin Cabral green card. Other news, Dre. We've got some little teasers on the kit. The new kit coming out February 14th. I know I am intrigued. It looks like what I know I have and I know others have been saying. We are the Rapids. Why don't we have anything related to water ever? I don't know. Some teasers out there. This little wavy line logo that we see could be a little water geared kit. Who knows?
In the light of Rapid Man himself. Huh?
Oh man, Rapid Man. Can you imagine Rapid Man wearing a new kit based on water?
Oh God.
Magnifique.
Yes, truly.
So anyway, February 14th, Valentine's Day. Fall in love with this new kit, we hope.
That's right.
But we'll bring you any more kind of little treats or little sneaky things the Rapids like to drop if we see them.
Many, a classy move on Valentine's Day is the rose petals on the bed or leading into. We, true Burgundy boys, we'll leave little hints to the new kit leading into the bed.
Yeah. Sometimes I will even just take kits and just throw them around and make it.
What's more romantic than
spicy.
that? That's exactly
a little spicy burgundy, if you know what I mean.
That's exactly right. So yeah, there's some fun ones. And crazy enough, that transfer fee, that said cash, it's like right behind Marko Ilić as the 5th biggest money signing in Rapids history. It's very similar to the Max move in some ways.
Yes.
And similar money, similar promising, but we'll see.
Let's hope it turns out differently.
No doubt. So yeah, it's but I think it's also noteworthy that we're at a point where an MLS homegrown kid is valued similarly to like a second tier Brazilian prospect that's coming
Serbian
up.
Goalkeeper.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think we're coming up in the world, so you love to see that. Shall we position preview it up?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's start from the bottom, as anyone from the Rapids world knows. And let's go defense and goalkeeping here.
Let's get into it.
Is this the most established position for you, Duane?
I think it has to be. There's obviously a ton of returning familiar faces.
Yep.
Keegan, Maxu, Jackson Travis, Reggie Cannon, Sam Vines, Michael Edwards. And then,
obviously the goalie side,
Stefan and Beaudry. We're reading all of these because some people are listeners versus watchers here.
That's a great way to do it.
But we've got 2 new faces too. We've got Cheeto that's coming in, and we've got Ian Murphy. Both came in together. That's going to be the new pieces that really kind of bolster this back line that gave up 60 goals last year. There's a lot of work to be done. I think some of these pieces, like you see, this project started at the end of last year with Reggie coming in. Now you've got the off-season moves with Cheeto and Murphy coming in. Those are probable starters. We don't know, because the big question is, what's the formation going to be in
How
the back?
will the back line play? Yes. Yes, indeed. Also worth mentioning here that Matthew Senau, who we really hyped up, Yaya and I, in the last Pids episode as we were recapping the draft and other offseason moves, you were telling me very much on Rapids 2 to start the season.
Yeah, he has been signed to Rapids 2,
Yep.
so that's why he's not in there. That doesn't mean that he won't move up to first team.
Probably
It's
the
just
first
he's
call
starting
up.
out with
Yep.
R2 like most of these draft. Alex Harris is the only draft pick that is guaranteed a first team
Sam?
contract.
I know he's not a draft pick.
He's not
so.
a draft, so he's signed a first team.
Okay.
But as far as those MLS Super Draft, as they say,
Damn straight.
Alex Harris is the one that's going to get the first team contract. Most other players on that came through the draft are going to come up through R2.
Great. Love that. Yeah, yesterday you kind of sent a 3-4-2-1 graphic my way, changing our formation graphic.
We had one of each because we still don't know. We talk a lot about what if we move to a back three. Do some of these moves say that we're moving to a back three? I started putting it together. What would that look like? Ironically, at the very same time,
A back three, you have more options out wide.
Yes, and that opens up where then you have different places for a player like Cabral or Calvin Harris to slot into. So it opens that up. I was on social at the same time I was making. I think it was Ski Wilson, who's frequent in the chat, was also putting out. So I was comparing with his. I think we feel similarly on most of these spots. So that was cool to see. Some other folks toying around with this back three. But like you said, it really opens it up because looking at the back four, it's hard to figure out who slots in where. Whereas the back three really opens it up. Having these wing backs makes it a whole different roster where these guys on these graphics we're making don't even belong on a midfield. They're actually a forward now, or this forward is now a midfield. So you'll see a lot of that weirdness too, like as we try to figure this thing out. What do you think? Looking at what we have, are you more of a back three or back four guy for 2025?
I typically am a back four kind of guy, but yeah, the more I look at it, the depth of our outside backs concerns me. Yep. And once they get moved to wing backs, and you get Cabral and Harris in that mix, and we'll see what Reggie can contribute now. We've got a comment on Reggie and how here in the Toyota chat think he'll compete for a job. My biggest question is, how will those outside backs perform? And so, yeah, back three, I think, gives me a little more assurances in that, especially when Keegan can play in the back three,
Yep.
And then it can kind of mold into a back four from time to time. It's not so strictly a back three, but
yeah, I think it depends on who's starting. If you've got Vines and Keegan out on the wings, so to speak, then if things get nutty, it can shift back to a back four to kind of like reset, and then maybe it shifts back up later in the game. If we're down and need to catch up, then maybe you drop to a back three and get more speed. You bring in a Calvin Harris. You have somebody like that, or Cabral, whoever,
100%.
to kind of get the push back up towards the net and get that press a lot harder.
100%. What's your biggest question for this unit, Duane?
Oh man, one big question for defense and goalkeepers. Aside from the formation, it's going to be in the net. It's going to be, what does Zach Steffen look like this year with a better back line? And can he bring the success that we had in Leagues Cup to make it a consistent run throughout the whole season to become one of the better keepers in the league with the backline support?
And Baudry's there, man.
Yep, he's right there.
This is that's a real backup goalie there.
Yep.
with some real promise to him. So yeah, I think that's a good question. Mine really is about those outside guys. Where does Reggie fit in? We've got a Toyota chat comment there saying Vines needs to get his mojo back. Could not agree more.
Yep.
Obviously, 3 guys coming back from Europe to MLS, and Georgie and Cole, absolute home run hits, phenomenal signings. Sam, who I probably had the highest expectations of any of the 3, fairly underwhelming, and I think there's more there. I know there's more there. So yeah, that's a
we
big
saw that
one
one with Cole. When Cole came back, it took some time to get
it's a
back
fair
into MLS style and back
point.
into the Rapids. He got there a little quicker than Vines. Maybe it will take. Maybe Vines, whatever it is, clicks this year,
Right,
and we
right.
see the return of Sammy Vines that we knew before he left.
Right, and if you're able, Murphy and Cheeto are upgrades on what you had at center back, especially post the Bombito transfer last season, you might really be cooking with gas if then Sammy finds his mojo and Reggie's more of a contributor as well.
Yep.
Let's move on to midfield here. And there's our midfielders, your familiar faces. Georgi Mihailovic, of course. Omir Fernandez. Ronan, Cole Bassett, Ollie Larraz. And your new additions, Ku-DiPietro, KD rather, and Amadou. A little thrown a bone to an R2 guy.
Yeah, and that was part of his contract. When he signed his contract last year, the agreement was you play a year in R2 and then you're guaranteed a first team contract for 2025. So if that's how that happened, that's why he's moved up to a first team contract. It's a new face, but he's familiar within the Rapid system, so they know kind of what to expect from him and what his ceiling is.
Yeah.
So he's in there now. Whether Ku-DiPietro is actually a midfielder or a forward,
Midfield
we
and
don't know.
forwards gets a little tricky here for
it's
sure.
a little muddy for the Rapids as far as positionally who is like legit. You know, do they slot in as a midfielder? Do they slot in as a forward? Because there's so much transition and pieces to play within the Armis press system. Whether we do traditional wingers or wing backs, all of that changes everything.
100%.
Yeah, so that's where we are midfield. I like our midfield. When everybody's healthy, I think this is a strong situation.
There's a lot of on-ball talent in this group. A lot. I do wonder if you're a smidge too heavy on the quality and you don't have enough just dirty work guys.
Dirty work. And we lost our dirty work guy in Jasper Loffelson.
Yeah.
Who got picked up in the expansion draft out to San Diego.
Because Ollie Larraz, coming from R2 last season, really broke out. I could not have been more impressed with how he fit in as the dirty work guy in the midfield. Cole Bassett has really matured and found a position as that he's such a complete midfielder and can help in all phases now. But I think you're asking a lot of Ollie to carry all that for an entire season in 3 competitions and be the backbone of that midfield, especially since Ronan...
He's not a physical guy.
He's more of a quality over dirty work.
Yep.
So I do wonder, is that, and that's where maybe you could make a stronger argument for a back 3 is, look, you've got to support Ollie and the rest of this midfield so they can lean into all the quality they have, all the, vision, on-ball ability, and they're not forced into roles of doing more dirty work when they should really be playmaking and passing and creating.
Yeah, and I think, you're right on the money with Larraz. Like, Ollie is the physical player in the midfield, like hands down.
Right.
Like there's no question about that. He seems happy to do it. He's good at it.
He's the best, bro. I love Ollie so much.
He's
He's the best.
I mean, that dude is what a meteoric rise he had last year.
No kidding.
From R2 to fan favorite. The other thing, and I don't know if this is a thing or not, but because of that lack of physicality in the midfield, I almost wonder if a player like Teddy, one of the things that Teddy brings to the team, if he's playing further up, right? If we look at him as a forward, a winger, and not a midfielder, he is a challenger. His take-ons are through the roof.
Yes.
So I'm almost wondering if some of the mentality is, let's have that fight in the final third so that we don't have to rely so much on the physicality in the midfield with Ollie. And then if that breaks down in transition or something, well, then you've got, your new guys with Cheeto, and then you rely on Ollie to drop back and get a little feisty. But it's a good question, Dre. Like there isn't a lot of physicality in the midfield outside of Ollie. So,
well, and that's why we've got to question, what's Amadou's style of play? And I mean, I think that's where Amadou makes a little more sense because he is listed as a defensive midfielder. He's, he came up from the Czech league and has had some experience playing with the Cameroonian under 17 U20 teams. That's kind of his play style, right? And a couple of the middies from the draft that, Yaya's excited about. That's more their type. And so you might have to lean into someone like that.
Sure.
Like someone like that might have to carry a bit more of the load than we're anticipating heading into the season.
And I mean, the lessons learned by all of us, club and fan alike, is that depth is, it will make or break you, and it broke us at the end of last season after that Leagues Cup run.
It's what makes it hard competing on two fronts.
Yes.
You would have told me, Leagues Cup, they go all the way. I mean, you played as many games as anyone would have in Leagues Cup, and then you make the playoffs as well. With that depth, I would have been like, really? Crazy, dude. Wow.
And I think
it's quite the undertaking. It's not very rapidsy,
It's not. And that's where, the big question marks were, at the end of last season. So maybe Adauda Amadou will come in and play some of that depth so that Ollie gets a rest when he needs to. But it also helps him to form that identity of being that physical, defensive mid that we need.
And I wonder how Wayne Frederick, the former Duke top super draft pick, who we have in our forwards group, because that's how they're listed on the website. So we're abiding by that. How could he fit into that mix? It's a lot of guys who I would say, well, naturally he's probably a 10.
Yep.
But in this system, we need him to be more of an 8.
Yeah, and when they sign forwards, they're very upfront. I mean, the Rapids have been very vocal. Chris Armas has been very vocal about, we're signing players. We're not signing positions necessarily.
Yeah.
Especially with the forwards. Like, we need guys who can play both sides, who can be goal scorers, who can, put the ball on the boot of the goal scorer, who can drop back and cover kind of that, that top end of the midfield, even to dropping back. I mean, how much did we see, Cabral sprinting back and covering pretty deep last year? So all of these players are moving all of the time, always in transition. I mean, Cole Bassett ran further than anybody.
Right. 100%. And that is podcasting and previewing the positions, it gets a little murky. But what I love about the Armis system is it is a fluid system.
Yes.
These guys are all fluid. So in some ways, Cole's going to cover for Ollie when Ollie pushes up and vice versa. And same with Georgie. And It's all a little interchangeable. It's like you're saying, the best way to defend sometimes is attacking, which I do think is what they lean into with this system. That's also like, that, you know, it might sound silly coming from Duane Brown, but it is literally Pep Guardiola's, you know, like strategy as well.
It's my favorite strategy for every sport.
Well, I mean, it's a great
literally every sport. It doesn't care what it is. You know,
best way to defend is attack.
Just have more goals than they do.
Right.
And just put all the pressure on them to have to score versus us having to defend. Like, you know, a 2-1 lead is much different than a 4-1 lead. You know?
Yes, indeed.
So,
yes, indeed.
Yeah, just all gas. That's what I want.
But yeah, I mean, look, that's a great point. When there are those 2-1 games that you got to close out in the last 15 minutes, who do you go to off the bench?
Yeah.
Like, who's your grinded out guy? And maybe that grinded out guy is just go to the 3-man back line.
Yep.
Tell Keegan to drop back, put some fresh legs on that right flank, and that's how we'll do it, right? Bring in
Keegan.
Reggie, you know?
That's what I'm saying. You sub out Keegan for Reggie. You let Reggie run up and smack the goalie in the face again.
I mean, what's the better strategy?
That's the best way to win. So,
do you have a biggest question for this group?
I think it's that. It's who's coming off the bench. It's what does the depth look like for this midfield?
Yep.
We know that Armis likes to start his guys consistently throughout the season. When guys get tired like they did last year, what does the depth look like?
Yeah.
And so who's on the bench, even who starts? I mean, how do you make some of these decisions? You know, Ronan, Larraz, Bassett, those three right there, you know, if you consider Teddy a midfielder, like, you got hard decisions to make.
100%.
But that's good for the bench.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like, we're both like, well, depth, you know, I got to answer some depth questions. And then we're like, but it's going to be hard to find a starting spot for Ronan, you know, and it's true. I mean, that's kind of the duality of it all. Love the Toyota check comment about Armis system. Total football. Damn.
Total football.
Straight. Yes. Total football, baby. We're bringing it back to Holland in the 70s. Who would... God, take me back to Holland in the 70s right now. Oh, give me one day. One day. Forwards?
Let's do it.
Forwards. Let's do it. And the way we organized our forwards, it's not just the one guy up top. It's in that 3-man front. Who else would be the attackers? New face. It is one and one only, Alex Harris. I guess you could put Sam Bassett in here. Gun to your head, Sam Bassett on this graphic or the midfield graphic? Guns to your head, Duane.
Ooh, gosh,
and
man.
You literally just need to give me the only way I pull the trigger is if you don't give an answer. You can say anything. You're the authority. He's a backup
here for Georgie.
Midfield it is.
Yes, midfield
it is. Boom. I love that.
Let's put him in.
And it's going to take a minute to find his place. Alex Harris, the big addition. Where do you want to go here? I have many questions, probably fewer answers.
Let's start with Harris at the striker position. Yeah. That was one of my first questions to the club, actually, is like, and this was like day of draft, so things may have changed. It's been 2 months now already. Does he slot in more as a winger, or his experience has been more at the 9 as a striker.
Yep.
And I think so. Here's my prediction. Maybe Yappy gets loaned out and gets minutes because right now he's sitting behind Hoffa.
Yep.
And maybe Harris moves in to the Yappy spot of being that backup. The Yappy's injured right now in preseason, so he's got a shoulder injury. They're not expecting to see him until I think March or April anyway. So we may see some Alex Harris minutes sooner rather than later.
I think they like this kid.
Yes.
I think they are high on him. I too am high on him because he has a knack for goal. I said it in the last episode. He just has that thing strikers have where it's like, okay, one touch, I know where the goal is, regardless of where I'm coming. I'm running towards goal. I've got my back turned from it. I'm coming from the right side, left side. He just has that innate, okay, the goal's here, one touch. How am I going to get it so that I can get a shot on goal?
Yep.
And I think he also brings you, unlike Yappy necessarily, the ability to play in a two-man front.
Yes.
Which right now we're talking a lot about double tens and, the three-man front with the two wingers. We haven't really, under Armis, had the option to play with two true forwards up front. You're always kind of adapting one of the forwards to be a false nine of sorts in some ways. This, Harris and Hoffa, and I think they complement each other pretty nicely too. I'm also intrigued by that option.
Yeah.
Because again, it's not always protecting a 2-1 lead. It's trying to come back from a 2-1 deficit. And that might be one of the options you have coming off the bench that you just didn't have last season.
Yeah, and last season we did a lot of catch up. It wasn't always protecting those leads. Like
Correct.
there were a lot of come behind, gritty performances by the Rapids of 2024. And, I hope it's not that way because I want it to be easier for them this year, but it may be. Again, it depends on that back line. They were letting in a lot of goals. So it's a lot of come from behind last year. Maybe that's different this year. So I don't know what the shift will be in the second half for the end of the game until we know kind of how stalwart that back line is going to be. But again, it's options, right? And that's what makes this team so interesting and fun as we get closer to the season, is that a lot of folks are absolutely committed to, we're running the same formation as last year. There are some folks that are like, no, it is clearly going to be 3 in the back this year. Other folks are like, well, in preseason down in Mexico, they were running 4-3-3. So it's like nobody knows. Like we're all trying to figure it out. And again, I think that gets back to what the club has said with all of these forwards coming in over the past couple of years is we're signing forwards. We're not signing a right winger or left winger. Hoffa is really like the one locked in positionally.
Yeah.
Everybody else is movable.
Right. Of all your probable starters in these position preview graphics, by the spoiler alert, Duane made all the graphics. Which, agreed upon. He's a
graphics.
Very talented designer, so why not? This by far the hardest probable starters to lock in.
Yeah, Hoffa is the only one.
Totally, because you don't know. And yeah, I think my takeaway from this offseason is they added a lot more options and scheme versatility than they have had the last couple seasons.
Yeah.
Which, sign me up. Who doesn't like options,
It's could be the Rapids' biggest strength. It's hard to plan against a team that can change on the fly.
Absolutely. My question is Alex Harris enough? Now, I wrote that question before they added Ku-DiPietro, but I think it's still relevant to this forward group. Is adding Alex Harris, a college sophomore last season, enough? Now, I think back to a Jose Mourinho quote when he was like at Roma, I think, where they asked him about the goal output from his forwards, and he was like, well, my forwards before coming here, did anyone have a track record of scoring a lot of goals? Reporter was like, no, not really. And he was like, well, see, why would you expect them to start scoring goals now? Those are the forwards we have. And in some ways, Hoffa, love everything he brings, but doesn't have a ton of double-digit goal-scoring seasons to his name. Yappy with R2, we are all very hyped. Prolific goal scorer, injured right now and hasn't totally happened for him the last couple seasons in MLS. Alex Harris, now was at Cornell in the Ivy League. Mm-hmm. Did I get my Ivy League school right? Good for me. does have a track record of double-digit goal-scoring seasons. That's all the kid does. But look, it's different in the Ivy League than it is in MLS.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, is Alex Harris enough?
That's a good question.
Especially when, geez, the West, we're just adding goal scorers left and right, you know?
The West is brutal. This offseason has been brutal. We'll get more into it on the next show. We're going to break down the Western Conference.
Yes.
Do
I'm
our
looking
season
forward to that.
predictions. But at face value, man, the West has been in an arms race.
Arms race indeed. Yeah.
It's just everybody is moving strikers. They're signing wingers. Like there's just goal scorers moving all around.
Yeah.
You know, you've got Jesus Fiera moving up to Seattle now.
Yeah.
Like Seattle is different now.
Yes,
just
indeed.
because of that move. I mean,
Austin's
again,
added some big time goal scoring. I mean, SKC just got a guy from the Galaxy. You know, it's happening all over.
it's just
Houston's
big
investing in
moves.
young guys. Yeah, I mean,
it's big moves on the offensive side of the ball. And the Rapids have, you know, kind of stood their ground saying, this is our foundation. During media day, you heard that over and over again.
Yeah.
This is a season to build. This is a season to build. We are building. Just the word build over and over and over again on that foundation that they started with last year. So we didn't see, you know, that big move that everybody was hoping for on the wings. Maybe Ku-DiPietro is that guy that turns into that big move on the wing. But is it enough? Is the perfect question. I mean, my one big question is, and it's a silly question, but it's like, can Hoffa break the scoring record this year? It's a silly question because honestly, who gives a crap? I don't give a crap as long as we're winning.
totally.
But like, if he is headed in that direction, and I mean like goals and run of play, not penalties either.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, on the pitch, non-penalty goals. If he is approaching that record or can surpass it, which a lot of players on many teams do every year, beat the Rapids in season goal record. If he does, then that means these forwards, all of these pieces that we have, the Rapids were right. Like we're making it work. We're using new guys like Ku-DiPietro as that inverted winger to push the ball in, you know, to get it to Hoffa. We weren't getting the ball to Georgie enough, and we weren't getting the ball to Hoffa enough last year. If that happens and Hoffa really does turn into that striker we've all wanted for so long, the Rapids really could be making some moves. Even if we don't figure out the back line right away,
100%.
Again, as long as we're scoring those goals,
100%.
who cares?
Yep. And we've got a comment about Armis's system in the Toyota chat and needing the wingers to score. Yeah, but look, you look at this roster. I trust the midfield and the 10s to be more of the goal scorers, and your midfield's going to have to supplement some of the goal scoring. You know, I just think on the outside you're still pretty green, you're still pretty unknown, and that's why everything you're saying about Hoffa checks out. He's going to have all the opportunities, he's going to have all the support, but at a certain point you need to be the focal point, right?
Yep.
And being the focal point up top means taking those opportunities and turning them into goals in the back of the net, and the scorekeeper having to update what the score is on the big board. So that's where we're at. What's your big question before we get out of here for the forwards?
That was
your big question. There you go.
Was the Hoffa question.
Transitioned beautifully. Well done.
We did it.
We did do it.
We got through all of the whole field
20 minutes in
record time.
when we'd only talked NWSL and Teddy, I was a little worried.
I could see it.
I was like, oof.
I was like, we're gonna do this. We're
Yep.
gonna get it done.
But then I knew once we got through defenders and goalkeepers as fast as we did, I knew we were golden.
We're gonna high press this season preview.
Damn straight. Exactly. Chris would be proud of us. Super producer Yaya will be back with us next episode, and we will be talking about some actual Rapids football being played then.
That's right.
Incredible.
It's time.
That's it for us. Thank you to our dog, producer Riley Sorbo. Thank you to you, Big Duaner. And what do we say to end the show?
The same thing we've always said, Dre.
Tell them.
Up the Pids.
Up the Pids, baby.
We all silly like the mayor.